It was a quiet night in a small desert town. The sky was dark and wide, filled with more stars than anyone could count. A soft wind moved through the dry grass, and everything felt peaceful. Inside a small house at the edge of the town, a young woman sat by her window, sipping tea and watching the sky. She often did that when she couldn't sleep. The stars made her feel calm, like she was part of something much bigger. Suddenly, a light flickered outside. At first, she thought it was a car's headlight reflecting off something, but there were no roads behind her house. The light flashed again, soft at first, then brighter, almost pulsing. It didn't look like lightning, and it wasn't steady like a flashlight. It was alive somehow. Curiosity got the better of her. She grabbed a small torch and stepped outside. The night air was cooler than she expected, and the sand crunched softly under her shoes. The strange glow came from behind the shed, near the old fence where she kept some gardening tools. She hesitated for a second, heart beating faster, but her curiosity pushed her forward. As she turned the corner of the shed, she froze. There, half hidden in the shadows, was something small, smaller than a child. It was sitting on the ground, shaking slightly like it was scared or hurt. The light she'd seen was coming from it. The creature's skin shimmered like wet silver under the moonlight. Its eyes were huge and dark, reflecting the faint glow from its own body. For a moment, neither of them moved. She didn't know what she was looking at, but somehow she knew it wasn't human. It wasn't an animal either, not like any she had ever seen. The creature tilted its head, studying her the same way she studied it. It made a quiet sound, something between a hum and a soft cry, like it was trying to speak but didn't know how. Her first instinct was to back away, but something about the little being stopped her. It didn't look dangerous. It looked lost. Its tiny hands gripped the ground, and its chest rose and fell quickly, as if it were struggling to breathe. She crouched down slowly, holding the torch low so the light wouldn't hurt its eyes. "Hey, it's okay," she whispered, even though she knew it probably couldn't understand. Her voice was calm, gentle, the same tone one would use with a frightened animal. The creature blinked, then made a trembling movement toward her voice. Its glow flickered, dimming for a moment. It seemed weak, tired, and afraid. She could almost feel its fear in the air. Without thinking, she took off her scarf and held it out. "It's all right," she said softly. The creature stared at the scarf for a few seconds, then touched it with one small, trembling hand, and in that instant, something strange happened. The light from its body faded a little, not because it was dying, but as if it was trusting her. The night around them grew still again, the stars watching silently, as if they too wanted to see what would happen next. The night was completely still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The young woman stayed where she was, trying not to make any sudden moves. The small creature was only a few feet away now, its silver-blue skin glowing softly like moonlight on water. Its wide eyes reflected her torchlight, and for a moment, she could see her own fear mirrored inside them. She didn't want to scare it. Every part of her told her to back away, to run inside and lock the door. But something stronger made her stay. It wasn't bravery. It was curiosity mixed with a quiet sense of care. So instead of running, she bent down slowly until she was at its level. "Hey, it's okay," she whispered, her voice almost trembling. The sound of her own words felt strange in the cold air. The creature reacted instantly. It made a low hiss, not loud but enough to make her freeze. Its small mouth opened just enough for her to see tiny, needle-like teeth glinting in the dim light. The sound wasn't angry, more like a warning, a scared animal trying to protect itself. Her heart raced, but she didn't move. She kept her body low and still, trying to look less threatening. She noticed the faint glow from its chest rising and falling in rhythm with its quick breaths. The blue light flickered each time it inhaled, fading slightly each time it exhaled, like a living heartbeat made of light. Very slowly, she stretched out her hand. Her fingers shook, but she kept them steady enough to show she meant no harm. The creature tensed, its small body leaning back slightly, eyes fixed on her hand. The silence between them felt heavy, not out of danger, but out of something unspoken. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, to her surprise, it didn't attack or run away. It simply watched. Its big, dark eyes blinked once, then again, like it was trying to understand her intention. The faint blue glow from its skin softened, losing its sharp brightness. She could feel her heartbeat in her ears. "It's okay," she said again softly. "I won't hurt you." Her tone was gentle, the way someone would talk to a lost kitten. The creature tilted its head, curious about the sound. Its small hand twitched, like it wanted to reach out but wasn't sure if it should. The air between them felt alive, filled with tension, but also something delicate. It was as if both were testing the limits of trust. A small gust of wind moved the sand around them, and the creature flinched but didn't move away. Its glow dimmed even more, until it looked almost like a pale reflection of the stars above. The woman smiled a little, realizing that its light changed with its emotions. Bright when scared, softer when calm. She lowered her hand further and rested it on the cool sand, leaving a safe distance. The creature slowly leaned forward, inch by inch, its eyes never leaving hers. It sniffed the air near her hand, then let out a soft sound. Not a hiss this time, but something gentle, like a sigh. In that quiet, moonlit moment, something shifted. It was no longer a meeting between a human and an unknown being. It was a fragile connection between two lives that didn't belong to the same world, but somehow understood each other. The woman stayed still, her hand resting on the ground, while the little being watched her carefully. The fear between them was still there, but so was something else. Trust beginning to bloom under the light of the stars. The night air had turned cold, and a thin mist had begun to move across the sand. The woman could see the small creature shivering, its tiny body glowing faintly in short, uneven pulses. Every flicker of light felt weaker than the last. It looked exhausted, and for the first time, she felt more worried than afraid. She ran inside her house and grabbed the first thing she could find, a soft old blanket that smelled faintly of lavender. When she came back out, the creature was still there, curled up near the shed, trying to keep itself warm. It looked so fragile that she hesitated for a second, afraid that even touching it might hurt it. Kneeling beside it, she spoke softly, the way someone might talk to a lost child. "It's okay. I'll help you." Her voice trembled slightly, but her hands were steady. She slowly placed the blanket over the small being. For a moment, the light under the fabric flared brighter, like it was reacting to her touch. She froze. But then the light settled, dimming to a calm blue. She could feel the creature's heartbeat through the blanket, fast, almost frantic, but steady enough to show it was still alive. What surprised her most was how human that heartbeat felt. Not mechanical, not alien in rhythm, but warm and alive, as if it had the same kind of fear and hope any living thing would. She wrapped it gently and lifted it in her arms. It was lighter than she expected, almost weightless. Its skin felt cool, like smooth glass that had been left under the moon too long. The creature didn't fight or struggle. It just lay there, breathing fast, trusting her completely, or maybe too tired to resist. Inside her small house, everything was quiet except for the faint humming coming from the creature. She wasn't sure if it was a sound or a vibration, but it felt peaceful, like the soft purr of a cat. She placed it carefully on a rug near the old heater and turned the dial a little higher. The soft orange glow filled the room, wrapping both of them in warmth. For a moment, she worried. What if heat was dangerous to it? What if she was doing the wrong thing? But then she noticed something that made her heart ease. The blue glow under the blanket began to slow down, matching the rhythm of calm breathing. The creature's body relaxed. She sat beside it on the floor, keeping her distance, but watching closely. Its breathing was still uneven, but its little hands stopped trembling. The light in the room flickered with the soft hum of the heater, mixing gently with the glow coming from under the blanket. The woman let out a deep sigh of relief. She didn't know what it was, where it came from, or if someone, or something, was out there looking for it. All she knew was that it needed her help. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the sound of the desert wind brushing against the windows, she realized something unexpected. For the first time in her life, she wasn't thinking about the stars above her. She was thinking about the small life lying right in front of her. Something strange, something not from this world, but somehow something that felt completely human. The first light of morning slipped through the thin curtains, filling the room with a soft golden glow. The woman had fallen asleep sitting on the floor beside the little creature, her back resting against the wall. When she opened her eyes, for a moment, she thought it might all have been a dream. But then, a soft tapping sound pulled her out of that thought. She blinked and saw the small being standing near the heater, its blanket lying loosely on the floor. It was awake and curious. Its glowing skin looked brighter now, steady and calm, not flickering like before. The creature was touching things around it, exploring carefully as if every object in the room was a mystery waiting to be solved. It tapped on a metal bowl and tilted its head at the sound. Then it picked up a wooden spoon and tapped again, making a different tone. Every new sound seemed to fascinate it. Its large, dark eyes reflected the morning light as it continued to test things. Glass, metal, paper, anything within its reach. The woman sat quietly, not wanting to scare it. She watched with quiet amazement. The creature wasn't moving randomly, it was thinking, observing, learning. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft and kind. "Hey there." The creature turned sharply toward her, its body glowing a little brighter for a moment. It made a strange sound, not quite a word, but something close to a question. It was like it was trying to answer her, or at least imitate her tone. She smiled. "You can hear me, can't you?" It blinked, then copied the sound. Not the exact words, but the rhythm of her voice. The tone was gentle, uncertain, but it made her heart skip. It was trying. She picked up a small cup and placed it in front of it. "Cup," she said clearly. The creature stared at it for a few seconds, then touched the cup carefully with one hand. "Cuh," it whispered softly, as if repeating after her. Her eyes widened. "You're learning." The creature made another sound, a faint hum, followed by what almost sounded like laughter. It wasn't mechanical or robotic. It was warm and alive, the kind of sound that made her smile without realizing it. Then she decided to test something. She raised her hand a little and said in a calm voice, "Stop." Instantly, the creature froze. It didn't move at all, its glow dimming slightly. She waited, then said softly, "Good." To her surprise, it blinked twice in quick succession, once, twice, and then made that soft humming sound again. She couldn't believe it. It understood her tone, if not her words. It knew when she was pleased. The more she spoke, the more it reacted, tilting its head, blinking in patterns, copying her small movements. It even tried to mimic her laugh, though what came out was a series of soft chirps that filled the room with strange warmth. She realized she wasn't just looking at something unknown anymore. This wasn't a wild being. It was intelligent, maybe even more than she could understand. The little creature walked up to her, looked straight into her eyes, and gently touched her finger with its tiny hand. The glow around it brightened just a little, like a smile made of light. And in that quiet morning, the woman understood. She wasn't just teaching it. It was learning her. The days that followed were slow, but peaceful. The small creature stayed close to the woman, never wandering too far from her side. It had stopped trembling and no longer hid in the corners of the room. Its fear was fading, replaced by curiosity and a strange kind of comfort that made the house feel warmer than usual. She made a small place for it near the window, with an old blanket and a little bowl of water. The sunlight that came through the glass made its silver-blue skin sparkle softly, like ripples on a calm pond. Whenever the creature sat there quietly, she found herself pausing her work just to watch it breathe. There was something soothing about its presence, something gentle and unspoken. It didn't eat much, but it seemed to enjoy small pieces of fruit. She discovered this by accident when she left an apple slice on the table. The creature sniffed it, then touched it carefully with two small fingers before tasting it. The light on its skin flickered brighter for a moment, almost like a smile made of color. After that, she began offering it bits of fruit and drops of water from a spoon. It accepted each one politely, never snatching or wasting. It began following her around the house, quiet as a shadow. If she walked to the kitchen, it followed. If she sat on the floor, it sat too, sometimes watching her with wide eyes that seemed far too thoughtful for a creature so small. There was something in that gaze, a quiet awareness, as if it was learning not just from her actions, but from her emotions too. Sometimes, when she hummed while cleaning or reading, it tried to copy her sounds. The soft hums it made weren't perfect, but they were gentle, like a small melody that floated in the air between them. It even learned when she laughed. The glow on its body would brighten, pulsing rhythmically, almost as if it was laughing back. The connection between them grew stronger each day, though she couldn't explain why. She started talking to it as if it understood every word. "You're curious, aren't you?" she would say, and it would tilt its head. "You like the window, don't you?" And its skin would shimmer faintly, a soft blue wave across its body. It began to feel wrong to just call it the creature. It deserved a name, something simple but meaningful. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight faded and its body began to glow faintly again, she whispered, "Lumo." The word came naturally, as if it had been waiting for her to say it. The creature blinked twice, then made a sound, a soft, approving hum that filled the room with warmth. The name fit perfectly. Lumo, the one who glows. From that day on, Lumo followed her everywhere. When she worked by the window, it sat quietly beside her. When she rested, it stayed near, its calm glow lighting the shadows like a night lamp. It wasn't a pet. It wasn't a guest. It was something in between. A companion from somewhere far away, who somehow felt like home. The day had been calm, too calm, almost like the world was holding its breath before something big. In the afternoon, dark clouds began to roll across the sky, heavy and low. The warm air turned cooler, and the sound of distant thunder started to echo across the desert. The woman glanced out the window and sighed. Storms were rare in her small town, but when they came hard. Lumo was sitting quietly near the window, tracing shapes on the glass with its tiny glowing fingers. Every time a flash of lightning appeared far away, it blinked in surprise, but didn't seem scared, at least not yet. The woman smiled and spoke softly. "It's just a storm. Don't worry." Her voice was calm, but even she could feel the change in the air. Something about the storm felt strange, electric, alive. By evening, the wind had picked up. The trees outside bent under the force, and rain began to fall in heavy sheets against the roof. The sound was loud and constant, almost like a drumbeat. She closed the windows and drew the curtains, leaving only a small lamp on. Lumo sat close to her feet, its soft blue glow casting faint light around the room. Then came a sudden flash, bright, white, and blinding. It was followed instantly by a loud crash that shook the walls. The lightning had struck somewhere close, maybe even the backyard. The sound was sharp enough to make her jump. But what truly scared her wasn't the thunder. It was Lumo's reaction. The small creature let out a low, trembling sound she had never heard before. Its glow turned bright red, pulsing fast like a beating alarm. It backed away from her, eyes wide and wild. The soft hum that usually filled the air was gone, replaced by a strange crackling noise, like static electricity building in the room. "Hey, it's okay," she whispered, trying to sound calm even as her heart pounded. But Lumo didn't seem to hear her. Its body stiffened, and tiny sparks of light flickered around it, snapping like tiny lightning bolts. Its eyes glowed crimson, and its small mouth opened, showing the sharp teeth she had almost forgotten it had. For the first time, she saw it not as the gentle creature she had been caring for, but as something powerful, something not meant for this world. The air around it buzzed, making the hairs on her arms stand up. The sound of rain outside mixed with the faint electric hum inside, creating a tension that felt almost alive. She took a slow step back, careful not to startle it. "It's just thunder," she said softly. "You're safe." For a long moment, Lumo didn't move. Its glowing red eyes darted around the room, searching for danger that wasn't there. Then another flash of lightning lit up the window, and it flinched violently, letting out a sharp, frightened sound. The woman wanted to reach out and comfort it, but she could tell this wasn't the time. This wasn't the small, curious creature she had named and fed. This was something ancient, something reacting out of pure instinct. She stayed still, barely breathing, as the storm raged outside. The air felt charged with energy, every flash of lightning making Lumo's body spark again. But slowly, very slowly, the red glow began to fade, the light in its skin softening back to blue. The humming sound returned, gentle and rhythmic. The woman exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. She realized then that Lumo wasn't just scared of storms. Maybe it remembered something from where it came from. And as thunder rolled again in the distance, she whispered to herself, "You're not from here, are you?" Lumo looked at her with calm eyes once more, its glow soft and steady as if to say, "No. But I trust you." The storm outside raged like a living thing. The wind howled around the corners of the small house, and the sound of rain hitting the windows was sharp and endless. Each flash of lightning filled the room with sudden bursts of white light, and every crash of thunder made the walls shake slightly. The woman stood still, her hands half raised, not knowing what to do next. Lumo's glow had turned into a bright storm of red and white. Sparks flickered around its small body, snapping softly in the air like tiny electric whips. The creature looked terrified, lost in its panic, its breathing fast and uneven. For a second, fear touched her too, not because she thought it would hurt her, but because she didn't know how to help it. Her heart was racing, but she remembered the way its light had calmed before when she spoke gently. She closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and tried to quiet her own fear first. When she opened her eyes again, she looked at Lumo, who stood trembling near the heater, light flashing wildly across the walls. Instead of yelling or backing away, she spoke softly, her tone steady and warm. "Bed," she said, the same way she did every night before they rested. Her voice broke through the storm like a calm wave. The creature froze mid-step. Its red glow flickered, uncertain. Its breathing slowed just slightly. She said the word again, slower this time, her voice softer. "Bed." The air between them changed. The energy that had filled the room, sharp and tense, began to fade. Lumo blinked, his bright red light softening to a dull orange, then melting slowly back into blue. His body stopped shaking. The crackling sound in the air disappeared. For a long moment it simply looked at her, as if trying to remember what that word meant. Then, with small, hesitant steps, it lowered its head and turned toward the corner of the room where its blanket lay. The woman didn't move or speak. She just watched, her chest tight with emotion. Lumo reached the blanket, touched it softly, and then curled up on top of it. Its glow dimmed until only a faint blue shimmer remained, like the soft light of the moon underwater. The storm outside continued, but inside the room, everything felt quiet again. The heavy tension that had filled the air just minutes before was gone, replaced by calm and warmth. The woman let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She knelt down slowly beside Lumo's resting place, careful not to disturb it. The small creature's eyes were closed now, its breathing deep and steady. She whispered, "Good," almost to herself, and smiled. Somehow, a single word, spoken with calm and trust, had reached across the gap between two very different worlds. Lightning flashed again through the window, but Lumo didn't move this time. Its glow stayed soft and peaceful. She reached out and gently pulled the blanket a little closer around it, the way someone would for a sleeping child. Outside, the storm roared on. But inside that small home, under the faint blue light of a creature from the stars, everything was finally at peace, and in that stillness, she realized something simple but powerful. Kindness could calm what fear could not. The storm had passed by the time dawn arrived. The wind was quiet now, and the world outside looked washed clean. The desert air smelled fresh, and sunlight peeked through the curtains in soft golden lines. The woman slowly opened her eyes, feeling that strange sense of stillness that always comes after a long, noisy night. For a moment, she didn't move. The memory of the storm still lingered in her mind, the flashes of light, the shaking walls, and Lumo's frightened eyes glowing red. She turned her head toward the corner where it usually slept, expecting to see the familiar soft blue light that had become part of her mornings. But the space was empty. The blanket was still there, slightly crumpled, but Lumo was gone. For a second, she thought maybe it was hiding under the table or behind the chair, as it sometimes did when it played. But when she looked around the room, there was no sign of it. No sound, no hum, no glow. Just quiet. Her heart sank a little. She got up and walked to the corner. That's when she noticed something strange. The blanket shimmered faintly in the sunlight. A thin ring of dust-like particles glowed softly on the surface, almost like tiny stars. She knelt down and touched it carefully. The dust felt warm, and for an instant her fingers glowed too, faintly blue. Then the light faded. She sat there for a while, unsure what to think. Maybe it had gone home, she thought. Maybe the storm had scared it and it found its way back to wherever it came from. She tried to smile at the thought, but her chest felt heavy. The room felt too quiet without its soft humming sound. She went about her morning routine, made tea, opened the window, and looked out at the desert. The ground outside was wet, patches of sunlight reflecting off the puddles left behind. The air was cool and still. As she reached to close the window, something caught her eye. Faint marks glowed near the glass, small handprints, glowing just enough to be seen in the daylight. They were Lumo's. She froze for a second, her breath catching. The prints weren't random. They were perfectly placed on the window, as if it had been standing there, looking out. And then she understood. It hadn't left during the storm. It had waited, watched. A smile spread slowly across her face, soft and full of warmth. Maybe Lumo hadn't gone home after all. Maybe it was just out there, exploring, learning, like it always did. She pressed her palm gently against the glowing marks. The light faded under her touch, as if the little creature was answering her gesture from far away. When she stepped outside to leave for work, she glanced back at the house. For just a moment, she thought she saw a faint shimmer near the window, a soft blue flicker that disappeared as quickly as it came. She whispered into the morning air, "Be safe, little one." The wind carried her words into the distance. Somewhere, out beyond the quiet desert, a soft hum rose and faded, like an answer carried on the breeze. And though she couldn't see it, she knew Lumo was still there, watching, learning, waiting. The weeks that followed felt strangely empty. The woman went back to her usual routine, working long hours at the small observatory outside town. The sky had always been her comfort, endless, quiet, full of stories hidden in light. But now, every time she looked up at the stars, she thought of Lumo. She still kept the little blanket near the window, as if the creature might return at any moment. Some nights, when the wind moved softly through the house, she could almost hear that faint hum again, the sound that once filled her evenings with calm. But when she turned her head, there was nothing there. Only silence and memories. One evening, while studying the latest sky readings, she noticed something unusual on her radar screen, a series of small pulsing lights appearing in one spot. The pattern was strange, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat. It wasn't a plane or a star. The light was too close, too local. She adjusted the settings, zoomed in, and froze. The readings matched something she had recorded once before. Faint energy signatures, small and luminous, the same kind that had come from Lumo's body. Her heart skipped. It couldn't be a coincidence. She grabbed her coat and stepped outside into the cold night air. The desert stretched wide and quiet around her. Above, the stars shimmered like they were watching. In the distance, she saw a flicker of blue light, faint, almost like the glow of a candle in the wind. Her breath caught. She followed it slowly, her steps crunching softly on the sand. The air felt different, charged but gentle, as if the world itself was holding something special. As she reached her porch, she stopped. There, standing in the faint moonlight, was Lumo. It looked just as it had before, small, glowing softly, its eyes deep and calm. But something about it was different. The light around its body shimmered more smoothly now, like it had grown stronger, more confident. It stood there quietly, holding something small and metallic in its hands. The woman's eyes filled with tears before she could even speak. She knelt down slowly, afraid that if she moved too fast, it might disappear again. "You came back," she whispered. Lumo tilted its head, that familiar gesture of curiosity and understanding. Then it stepped closer. The glow on its skin brightened, not in warning but in warmth. Carefully, it reached out and pressed something into her palm. A small metallic shard, cool and smooth. The piece was etched with tiny markings, faint symbols that shimmered under the starlight. She didn't know what they meant, but somehow she understood what the gesture was. Gratitude. She looked at Lumo, her eyes soft. "Thank you," she said quietly. The creature blinked twice, the same way it always did when it understood her, and the faint hum returned. That comforting sound she had missed so much. For a while, they just stayed there in silence, a human and a being from somewhere far beyond the stars, connected not by words, but by kindness. When she looked down again, the little creature was gone. Only the metallic shard remained in her hand, glowing faintly, as if holding a piece of its light. The night felt warmer than usual, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. Lumo had found its way home, and somehow, so had she. The next morning, the house was quiet again. The woman woke to a calm stillness that felt both peaceful and heavy at the same time. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting soft lines across the floor. For a moment, she thought maybe last night had been a dream, that Lumo's return had been nothing, more than her imagination trying to comfort her lonely heart. But then she saw it. On the small table near the window lay the metallic shard, the same one Lumo had pressed into her hand. It glowed faintly in the light, as if holding on to the last trace of its energy. She picked it up carefully and turned it in her hand. The strange symbols etched into it shimmered like moving stars. They weren't letters or numbers, at least none that she recognized, but they carried a kind of rhythm, like a message written not in words, but in feeling. She sat by the window for a long time, tracing the lines with her fingertips. The shard felt alive, almost pulsing softly against her skin, like it remembered the one who had carried it. When she looked outside, the world looked the same as always. Quiet desert, pale morning sky, and a soft wind moving through the dry grass. But something in her heart had changed. The world didn't feel as empty anymore. It felt connected to something larger, something kinder. She whispered softly, "Where did you go?" Her voice trembled slightly, not from sadness, but from the strange warmth that filled her chest. No answer came, only the distant sound of the wind and the hum of the morning. She smiled a little. Somehow, she already knew she wouldn't see Lumo again, not the way she had before. That night, as darkness settled once more, she sat near the window where Lumo used to rest. The blanket was still folded neatly in the corner, untouched since the night it had returned. She held the shard close and whispered the same word she had spoken so many times before, "Bed." At first there was only silence. Then softly, the air around her began to shift. A faint blue light shimmered near the window, small, gentle, and familiar. It wasn't bright enough to light the room, but it was enough to make her heart ache with quiet joy. The light pulsed once, twice, then faded slowly until only the memory of it remained. But she didn't feel sad. She knew what it meant. Somewhere out there, beyond what she could see or understand, Lumo still remembered. From that night on, every time she whispered that simple word before sleep, the faint glow would return. Never too bright, never too long, but always enough to remind her that kindness could travel farther than stars. The shard stayed with her always. She never managed to decode the markings, though she tried many times. But deep down, she didn't need to. She already knew what it said. It wasn't a message of science or knowledge. It was something simpler, a silent promise that even in a vast, mysterious universe, one small act of compassion could connect two worlds forever. And so each night, as she whispered "bed" and watched the soft glow appear by her window, she smiled, knowing that love and kindness spoke a language no distance could silence.